Hello everybody, I'm Arden. Welcome to another episode of Glacial Awakening. Today we are hopefully going to move out of the Stone and Ice Age here and finally move into the Iron Age, which will hopefully let us make the most important tool in the game, the chisel. Because that'll at least let me make something that isn't just completely ugly. So to take a look at where we left off in Chapter 2, here we were just about to make the Bloomery, which will let us process iron once we can make it. In the Bloomery is just a bunch of refractory blocks, so I need to go make a bit more so that we can put this together. And in case you've forgotten what it took to make the refractory blocks, it was a bunch of slaked lime and flint clay, which come from using the soaking pot with either liquid clay or water. Alright, so I made some more blocks and I put the Bloomery down there and set the anvil next to it because we will eventually need those together. Because if we look in here, it tells us how to use it as we go to pick up our rewards. Basically, it works like the rest. You put what you want in the top, you set it on fire, and then when it's ready, you use tongs to pull it out and put it on the anvil. We can also use the bellows that it's giving us with a cog that it's also giving us to speed up the process. And it's going to kick out ash just like the sawmill kicks out wood chips. But this leads us to actually needing iron ore, and getting iron ore is not straightforward. It's not in them thar hills. There is some stuff out here for like nuclear craft and magnetocraft out here, but there is no iron. Not that I'm aware of, at least. Because what it actually wants us to do is do it with the rock cores that we made way back at the end of Chapter 1. And the instructions are right here. What we need to do is prime the rock core with the correct shards, and we haven't made the shards yet. Because to get these shards, you just take the crystals we make and put them under a crushing block, and it gives you a random shard. So we need to do this until we get the correct one. So I'm gonna go use up all the ones I have now and pray that I get the right one so we can continue on. All right, I crushed a bunch. We've got a bunch of varieties of them here, but what we needed was this one at the end, the shard of the sacred land. All right, so making the ore is kind of annoying. I did one just to make sure I knew what I was doing. But you put the rock core down next to its catalyst. In this case, to make iron ore, it's either iron ore or sand. It doesn't need to be surrounded in it, you only really need one, but you'll see why I have multiples in a minute. And then you use the shard on the core, and then they start popping off. They don't actually get absorbed, but you should replace them so that it keeps processing. You see that it has this rune type thing going on. That tells you that it's working. Until it eventually finishes it. Now that I'm realizing I don't actually need the ones on the corner, it's only the ones directly next to it. There are ways to speed this up or do multiples coming up in the future, but right now we have to do it the super annoying way, and I do need 4 of these. Alright, and finishing this gets us a light core stabilizer and 2 amplifying tubes. Then the stabilizers are going to be placed under the blocks to make them less likely to pop off. There are 3 tiers, medium, light, medium, and heavy. Obviously the higher tiers are better. And the amplifying tube can be used to turn cobblestone into lava. Okay, so I made some tongs, and I've got the iron. I set up the bellows next to the Bloomery, that's good to go. I think we're about ready to make some iron ingots. So you start by putting the iron in the top, followed by some fuel. And you fill that up, and set that on fire, and it starts. And then you wait for this to finish, get your handy tongs ready, panic when you realize you have forgotten your hammer, and right click out your bloom. You put the bloom on the anvil. Well, you just drop it on the ground because for some reason it wasn't going on the anvil. Set yourself on fire. And watch yourself slowly die until you remember you have water. And actually die. Okay, so that's what killed me. That over there. I'm an idiot. You need the Pyrotech granite anvil, not the stone one they gave me. That's some real mixed messages, guys. Anyhow, you then hammer it to get some slag. And now I have a bunch of pieces of iron ore slag. But it did give me some nuggets as a byproduct of that, so I believe I have about enough for an ingot here once I smelt all of this. I don't remember getting set on fire this much from smashing the Bloomeries. It just constantly is setting fires when I'm hitting it. I've got to figure out some better way of handling that. But those 4 ingots got me 37 nuggets and 11 pieces of slag. The nuggets obviously are 4 ingots by themselves with a little extra. And this iron ore slag, we can either smelt down for 1 ingot a piece to get 11, or we can compact it into an iron ore slag heap, which we can then reprocess into another bloom and some more slag. So I think that's the trick, is set myself on fire and kill myself a few more times, huh? My tongs blew up, so I'm gonna replace those with iron ones now that I can. But I also threw the iron bars I created into a fire on accident and destroyed them, trying to put the fire out. This is not my day. But that's okay, because we finished this quest. which gets us an iron cog, which leads us to creating gold ore, which is a similar process, it's just a different shard, and creating an iron casing, which helps the combustion chamber. It should actually allow us to make gunpowder. But this requires iron bars, which requires more iron than we created anyways. So I need to go make some more iron, which requires making more crystals. But the crystals are easy now since I have this and I have the mysterious trees and bonsais. So we've got enough leaves to go make a bunch. So let me go make a bunch more iron and probably die a few more times, huh? But before I forget, the iron anvil is just the granite anvil with a piece of iron on it, but it lasts a lot longer. And while I would like to make the iron hammer already as well, it requires durable twine, which requires wood tar and some twine. We could make the twine, and the wood tar I could make in a stone crucible if I had tar bales, which requires straw, which is just dried plant fiber and some string, which I could do actually. What do you think about this? That's a lot of work, but that might be worth doing. Alright, while processing iron, I did some more exploring. And to make the twine, to make the wood tar for it, well, it requires the tar bale, obviously, and some wood tar. But you can't make the tar bale without wood tar. Which means what we actually have to do is pit burn some logs to do this, or else get up to the refractory. So I'm going to hold off on this until I'm ready to move to a new base, so I have more space to go if I just want to build the pit. I'll just live with the bone ones for now. It's not great, but it's at least getting the job done. Besides, me moving should actually not be too much longer. Alright, so I made enough iron to make the iron bars, so that we can make the iron casing and swap that in our combustion chamber and make some better stuff. Alright, I swapped it back in. If we go into it, it now has a max of 1538, which is high enough to make gunpowder, which is the important one, since that's the one that I hated. Although also relevant, it is enough to also make redstone, which we will need to do shortly as well. It's like you can literally see it as the next step right after this, so I think we're going to be going to do that. But it's giving me a bunch of plant matter that I can use as bone meal. And now we need to make one redstone, and it's going to give me a bucket, so yay, I didn't waste a bunch of iron to make a bucket. I love it when it gives me free stuff I was intending to make off camera anyways. Alright, so the really unfortunate part about making gunpowder is you have to do it one flint at a time. It will all just kick back any extras that are in there. It's not great. But now I at least have a fairly sizable amount of gunpowder to work with. But at least with that, I was able to make a bunch of redstone. It was a little time consuming, but it wasn't too bad. And yay, free bucket. And then that leads us to the last step that I'm going to do for today, which will end us with the ore, which is to create gold ore. And the process is exactly the same, except it uses a yellow shard. Okay, a slightly better setup this time. Put a single sand down on your stabilizer. And then you can surround it with up to 4 cores. Now, this is still a really inefficient way of doing this, because we have to make each of these. It does get more efficient later. It actually involves the grit vase, but it's much more advanced. We'll get to it a bit later in, because it requires more stuff than we currently have. Now note that these do pop out very, very quickly. It's very annoying with the light stabilizer. It's actually easier if I only do 3 of these at a time, because it'll force it out the one side that's open, but good enough. We need 4 anyways. Oh, but I just discovered a problem. I need more iron, because that's diamond level pickaxing. At least I have a bunch of ore I just need to process still. So I had a smart moment where I realized I could upgrade my pick to iron via tetra. Although now I'm also going to have iron around to repair it. Although it only did half the pick, you can see half of it's a different gray. But that's enough to be able to mine the gold now. And finish the quest. Which gets us more amplifying tubes, which we will use in not too long, I don't think, series-wise. But with that, I think I'm going to call it a day, because now we have some very basic metals that we can make some slightly better tools with. I can make a chisel, and now I can consider moving out onto this plains where I have better visibility and don't get constantly ambushed by creepers, and can set up an actual perimeter with fences. But I've got some work to do in my off-camera time to make a couple of these tools, as well as get enough wood to make some fencing with. And maybe come up with a plan, but probably not. Anyhow, if you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribing if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.